From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Colorado voters have a right that many Americans don't. Colorado and 25 other states allow residents to collect signatures and put questions on the ballot. In Colorado, you have been putting that tool to use. Only Oregon and California use the referendum process more. But in recent years, some unusual proposals have made their way onto ballots, including one that could ask voters this fall to guarantee your constitutional right to use natural gas for cooking and heating. Some political observers question whether our initiative process is out of hand, especially when a Colorado ballot might contain a dozen items referred by voters. Colleen Slevin recently took a deep dive into the past and present of Colorado's citizen initiative process for the Colorado Sun. And as state election workers comb through scores of collected signatures to decide what will make it onto the November ballot, Colleen joined us to talk about it. Let's talk a little bit about how we got here. Colleen, you researched how Colorado ended up with a ballot initiative process more than a century ago, back in 1910. Where did the idea come from and who backed it?
Yeah, this was something that was happening across the United States, especially in the West. This was an idea that had bipartisan support during what is called the Progressive Era. This was a time of widening economic inequality. Cities were growing. Immigration was on the rise. There was a real concern about special interests, then big business, and also urban political machines deciding what things get passed into law. So this was happening around the country. And in 1910 is when Colorado voters were asked by state lawmakers whether they wanted to allow ordinary people to propose ballot questions. And the very next time it was allowed, which was in 1912, there were 20 initiatives on the ballot.
Wow. So they put that referendum process to use pretty quickly. What kinds of causes were popular in those first years that the referendum process was available?
Yeah, there seemed to be a mix of good government proposals fitting with that idea of making sure the government was really representing the people. There was a recall process for elected officials. That was one of them. And then some kind of social justice and social welfare issues, creating juvenile courts. And there were separate measures for limiting the working day for both women to 8 hours and also for any kind of miners working underground to working 8 hours a day and limiting their workday.
The referendum process has led to some milestone votes over the years here in Colorado, including passage of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, for example. But things changed in 2016. What changed about the process in 2016, and what was the result?
Yeah, in 2016, this was a constitutional change that was approved by voters on the ballot to make it harder to change the state constitution. Because it is so hard to change the state constitution, the backers said we should make sure that we have a higher bar. That change required backers of constitutional ballot changes to collect signatures of at least 2% of the voters in each of Colorado's 35 Senate districts. So you couldn't just go to the 16th Street Mall or some other busy place on the Front Range and get your people. You had to really work it all over the state.
Yeah, and all different areas, rural areas, everywhere.
Yes, everywhere. And so it made it harder and also more expensive. Many ballot measures now have campaigns that pay people to collect signatures.
We mentioned the proposed ballot item about a right to natural gas. Former Colorado Senate President Steve Fenberg talked to you about how a lot of these referenda basically boil down to someone writing a big check. What does it cost to get enough signatures to make the ballot?
Yeah, he did say that he thinks it's about $1 million to $3 million to get a ballot measure.
Wow.
Signatures threshold passed right now, if you are using pay signatures.
This sounds like it makes it quite a bit harder for grassroots organizations to get on the ballot.
It is harder. You have to be really organized if you're a grassroots campaign. There are 3 measures on the ballot that have been approved to be on the ballot that did have grassroots support, and they say they did collect most of their signatures with volunteers.
And what are those measures?
Those are 3 measures that are organized by a group called Protect Kids Colorado. One would make it a more serious penalty to engage in human trafficking of children. The other 2 are related to controversy over transgender teens. So one would say you can only play on a sports team that is aligned with your sex as defined by your biological sex. And the other is prohibiting surgery, basically transgender surgery for kids, for those under 18. Those ballot measures were put on the ballot, the organizers say, with over 90% of the signatures coming from a network of volunteers working across the state.
Some activists have talked about at least making this process more transparent. What can we know about who backs a ballot item now, and how would some activists like to see that change, like a more transparent version?
Yeah, Senator Fenberg did help pass a bipartisan measure that does require spending to be reported. So you can find out if you do some digging, which is what I did. It's available online, but a lot of voters may not have time to do that.
Right.
So some advocates are saying there should be an easier way for voters to be able to find out exactly who is behind these things. Right now, we do have limited information about that. Another thing that some people suggest is just looking at, is this something that should be in the Constitution? Some things do need to be in the Constitution, but if it's not, maybe that makes you a little bit more, I don't know, suspicious or just more curious to find out what the motive for this measure might be.
Just knowing that it could be very difficult to unwind if it does get in the state constitution.
Right.
In defense of the referendum process, your story made me think about how Colorado voters used a ballot question to reject the Winter Olympics. That was after Denver landed the winning bid for 1976. What did you hear from supporters of the process who worry about losing this citizen-driven tool of democracy?
Yeah, I know some people do gripe about the process. Lawmakers do sometimes. I do think that we still, overall in Colorado, really do love this process. And anytime the state legislature is not doing something that the people want them to do, the people do have this option. Even now, they have to work a little harder to change it, possibly. But everyone seems to agree that it's a power worth leaving with the people.
Colleen Slevin reported on Colorado's ballot referendum process for the Colorado Sun. You'll find a link to her story in our show notes. And you'll find more election coverage at our website, KUNC.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.